It was grade 11, high school, and you were looking at your career prospects. You've got pretty good marks, so you're paging through the options like a menu in a restaurant. But there's nothing on the menu, or at least nothing appetizing. Everything takes so long. Doctor, 8 years. Lawyer, 6.5 to 7 years. CA, between 5 and 7 years. Wait. It can take 5 years. You heard me right. Your ears are not blocked. And today, Dillen Breitenbach, UNISA's top CTA student in 2023, Audit Senior at Moore Jhb, and founder of Accounting Warriors, a platform dedicated to providing top quality accounting study materials to enhance your learning experience, shares with us his very unconventional path to becoming a CA in less than record time, en route to becoming one of the youngest CAs ever. We also chat about the CASA as the finance professional of the world, saying you're a CA versus being a CA, the unexpected truth about the CA salary, bridging the gap between studying and the workplace, key paradigm shifts to understanding technical IFRS accounting, the new IFRS 18 presentation standard, and more. Enjoy. Guys, my aspiring CAs, my travelers on the road. This is just a drive-through. I'll be fast like KFC. I don't know about you guys, all right? But there's something about the CA journey. It just doesn't stop. And life begins to life. Then life doesn't stop lifing. And then before you know it, it's the week before exams and you don't have time to make any notes. Guys, Accounting Warriors has got you. Premium quality, to the point yet comprehensive. Professional yet attention-grabbing. If you need a plug for those year-end exams, because I know it gets hectic, we don't have time all the time to make notes. All you travelers, again, will be getting 15% off all Accounting Warriors products if you use the link in the show notes. Again, 15% off if you use the link in the show notes. If you haven't already, check out part 1 of this episode. Linked in the show notes as well. On to part 2. Your journey. It's a very interesting one.
Okay.
The short route. Can you explain how you... So Dillen is literally my age, but he's about to qualify as a CASA, or he's a year older. Can you explain us that route, how you found out about the short route, and the circumstance that obviously prompted you to follow it?
Okay. So basically, when I did my job shadowing at this firm, they told me that you can start your articles straight out of matric and you can study part-time. And then whilst you study, you complete your articles. And when you're done, you just have boards. And then after 5 years, you're basically a CASA. So that's how I found out about it initially, because I knew about the process of going to university for 3 years, doing your CTA for 1, and then doing your articles for another 3 years, and your boards during that. So I knew normally it took 7 years, and then now there's this guy telling me it can take 5, and I'm like, okay, well, I always like taking the shortcut and stuff. I like to get there a lot quicker than I need to, and I was very keen on it. And because the financial resources was limited, my options was go study part-time while working for this firm, or go get another job, save up, hopefully get enough money to go study full-time, and then do the CA journey. And at that time, I wasn't that committed to the CA journey to go get a different job and save up for 5 years to spend 7 years on this journey. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to study. I'm going to get money from it as well. So I might as well try this. Enrolled, did my degree, CTA. After 4 years, signed off my articles. Now I'm an Audit Senior, passed ITC in January, and now I have to do APC in December. That's the journey.
If anyone, like, the power of your journey is, if anyone needs, like, if anyone's in that situation where it's like, I have to choose between studying, between qualifying, and, like, living and sustenance, there's actually a way.
There is a way. And I think the biggest thing for me is I kind of shifted into what can I do as a CA? What is the opportunities once I am a CA? And then I realized, well, it makes a lot more sense to just do this for the next 5 years. I'll get paid. I'll get a qualification. And it's a elite qualification. Like I'm able to go to any firm in South Africa, any firm outside of South Africa, can start my own thing. I can do teaching, financial services, can start my own business. There's so many opportunities, and you always have this designation to fall back on. Like if you go out and you start your own thing and it doesn't work out, go back to the drawing board, get a job. I mean, CSA behind your name, you should be in the door fairly quickly.
Yeah, you'll get the interview.
That's the thing. You'll get the interview. If you stuff up the interview, that's on you.
That's on you, but you'll get it.
You'll get the interview quite easily, because a lot of jobs, they're like CSA. Even if you look at international jobs, like it's crazy. Like they put CSA next to their local chartered accountancy body, and I'm like, wow. But it makes sense. I mean, SAICA won the number one chartered accounting body in the world last year. So we're literally number one now.
We're literally the best accountants in the world. There was this interesting sort of take on this. Like, I forgot who said it, but basically, you know how Indians are known for their tech skills?
Yeah.
Like they have the data scientists of the world. They have the, the coders of the world.
Yeah.
Literally, you have many, I don't know the number, but many of the Fortune 500 company CEOs, tech companies, Indians. We are that in terms of financial services. South Africans, CASA. But I'm making even other designations. Like, we have the finance professionals of the world.
Exactly.
The apex of finance professionals. So that's what you're studying, guys.
That's what we're all studying, right? That's the goal. I mean, to be part of that global empire. Tap into all of those.
The top CA in the world, man.
Yeah.
You said, and I quote, "Do you want to tell people that you're a CA? Or do you want to be a CA?" Can you explain that phrase?
So for me, I think that phrase came from tutoring a lot of people. A lot of the times people tend to study because they want to pass a specific exam. And the motivation is generally they want to tell people I passed CTA. Because trust me, once you tell people you pass CTA, the respect you get earned is insane. And like the celebration, it's such a cool feeling. So I get why people would want to do it for that. But at the end of the day, and it's actually a realization that I only made this year, because as a trainee accountant, you're still training. You're expected not to necessarily know everything, and you're expected to learn on your journey. But once you're done, nobody really prepares you for the fact that now that you have the CASA designation, you actually now have to be a CA. And it sounds crazy, but think about it. Like a lot of students, even when they're in third year or fourth year level, especially if you haven't started articles yet, I can guarantee you a lot of them, they haven't even made that link yet. They haven't even thought about, okay, but when I am a CASA, what exactly am I going to be doing in my day to day? What is my job going to be? And once you realize that, you are going to concentrate a lot more about IFRS 16, because you're going to realize in real life as a CASA, there's not going to be an exam paper giving you everything you need for your IFRS 16 calculation. You're going to get a lot of information. You might even get a contract. But you're going to have to do IFRS 16 based on all of that information on your own. Yes, you can call up another CA, but do you want to be that CA? It's like, I always make that comparison, and it's just going to come across as harsh, but do you want to be like Mike Ross and Harvey Specter or Harold? Like,
if you haven't watched Suits,
do you want to be?
If you haven't watched Suits, go watch it. If you want to get the
exactly. That's what I always say. And I'm like, yes, it's okay to doubt yourself as a CA, but if you're sitting at like the table of like the top 500 Fortune or Fortune 500 companies, I mean, if they have to choose between a CA that can tell them directly A, B, C, D, this is how it is, and someone going I think that's the problem. And yes, we are in demand, but there's still a lot of CAs out there, a lot of great CAs out there. So you still need to perform.
Yeah.
And that's what that phrase reminds me, is that everything I do on my qualification journey is to make me a better CA once I'm actually the CA, because I want to be that CA.
That's a great mindset, because I think like we're all like CASA. It will end in CASA. That's why like even my whole motto for this podcast is it will begin, because guys, that is actually where it starts. You cannot think you must think past CASA, not too much so that you don't act today, but
Yes.
you must understand that everything you're doing today is for beyond CASA.
Exactly.
You
It's
know.
for once you are a CA.
Do you want to tell everyone you're a CA, or do you want to be a CA?
Exactly. And that's why it's all about setting your intention. It's like for people starting their articles as well. Yes, okay, spend your first 6 months going around, chilling around, figuring stuff out. But you have to be intentional with your 3 years. Where do you want to be at the end of that? Because if you want to go, for example, in the mining industry, get experience in your articles in the mining industry. Because the reason I say that is you'll have full access to audit partners that had 15, 16, 17, sometimes 20 plus years of experience in the mining industry. And you can capitalize on that for free in articles.
And I like that you say for free.
For free.
Because like people are like, yeah, but my trainee salary, guys. Think beyond that, because that salary, and it's crazy how you're from a background that you couldn't afford to go into directly into school, so you didn't have funding for school, right?
Exactly.
But like you were willing to work an okay job. You obviously weren't even earning a CTA trainee salary.
I wasn't even paying tax in my first year.
He wasn't even paying tax in his first year. But you had the foresight to understand that it begins in CASA. And so you are like, okay, I can do the maths. Because like, okay, in fact, how did you know that CA, it held so much power so early?
I think my benefit came from job shadowing at the firm because I went there in grade 9, 10 and 11. So I had direct access to a fully practicing chartered accountant, and I could ask him all of my questions. And then also remember, I'm a Gen Z. We were born in the Google age, so it's as easy as pulling up your laptop and being like, what do CAs do? Where do CAs go? Are CAs
how much
in
do they
demand?
earn?
Exactly.
All
Okay.
that, yeah.
Well, don't do that, because the problem is, and that's something a lot of people don't know. Yes, CAs earns a lot, but it's at a certain point in their career. That's a big thing. So it depends where you are and when you are there. So as much as we do earn above the general South Africans, it's not, you can't go in, get your CH badge and expect the bags of money to come. It's going to depend on where you're going. Are you staying in audit? Are you going in financial services? Are you going into private practice? Where exactly? And there's a big change in your ranges. The base level remains fairly consistent, but it all depends, and it depends on your specializations. But it's the same like doctors, if you think about it. A GP charges a set rate, a specialist is almost double that. So that's why we say begins when you're a CASA.
It begins, man.
It doesn't end there. And I think people believe that it ends there, and they expect the salary of a 10-year practicing CA. It's not going to happen. You can try as much as you want to. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So I think just be careful when you're Googling your ranges, because it also depends. A lot of the times, because it's an international career, people convert international salaries to South African rands, which is a bit of a bad thing to do in a sense, because remember, if you're working in London, you're staying in London. So you need to weigh up that £65,000 a year that you're getting. Yes, it might be 80,000 rand, And if you stayed in South Africa, fantastic, good on you. But if you stay in London, it might be the equivalent of you getting 60,000 Rand a month in South Africa.
True.
So that mind shift is very important.
Sure. That I never thought of that. I never thought about how, like, that range and that, you know, market stat is based off of, like, a lot of people, based off of the one who's been in practice for 15 years.
Exactly. And the one that's been there for 1. But it comes down to your negotiation tactics.
True.
You know, that's the other thing.
Oh, we don't learn that, Dylan.
Well, the thing is, and I'm glad you brought that up. My biggest thing is in today's day and age, your excuse can't be, we didn't learn that.
I like that.
Because you have access to everything that you need. You can ask ChatGPT how to negotiate my salary. You can go onto Instagram if you want to watch a video about a funny lady telling you how to do negotiation tactics. You can watch TikToks. You can watch YouTube. You can even, in today's day and age, hit someone up on LinkedIn and ask their advice how to negotiate this. So if you take charge of your life and where you want to go, you'll get there. But if you're sitting on a train waiting for someone to teach you something, it's the same with school. Yes, you're paying a lot of money to your university to teach you something, but their responsibility ends at a point. And your accountability starts at a point. And you need to recognize that. You need to recognize that ultimately it's you in the driver's seat. Yes, you can get support from other people. Yes, you can get a bunch of people on your journey that mentors you, but you still need to make the decision at the end of the day, because you're going to be in that interview.
Yeah.
So if you don't know how to negotiate in that interview, it's a learning curve. Remember, nothing in life is set and stone.
Yeah.
Okay, you stuffed up in an interview.
Yeah.
So what? You negotiated a low salary. So what? Start the job. See the growth. If you like the company, bring it up with your director and say, listen, this is what I add value in. Let's look at the salary. And if it doesn't work out, you go to another company.
Whatever you go through, you grow through.
Exactly.
Yeah, man.
Exactly.
Sure. I wanted to chat about, you mentioned the link. We don't oftentimes as students make the link between what we're doing and like the study and practice. So you've sort of been doing that since day one.
Exactly.
What was your experience studying and working at the same time?
So because I started in matric,
Yes.
the adaptation was very easy.
Yes.
Because from the get-go, I was studying part-time. And the reason I bring that up is a lot of people do their first 3 years full-time, and then they do CTA part-time.
Oh, yeah.
My journey is not necessarily relatable to that, because going from full-time study to part-time studies in an article contract is very hard. Because the way you studied the past 3 years, you need to unlearn and you need to reteach yourself to learn part-time for CTA. Sure. And that's part of the reason why a lot of those kids don't make it, because they underestimate the amount of work they have to put in their study habits to pass. Not necessarily just studying. But for me, because I started straight out of matric, and first year is quite, first year is pretty chill. Like the subjects is, they try to be difficult, but they're not that bad.
Yeah.
And for me, during that time, I had no idea what was potting. I didn't know what an audit was, why an audit was, or, my first audit file. And once you guys start articles, if you're in articles, you'll understand. But I thought when we do an audit, we basically print the client documentation, we put it on file, and somebody reviews that, and they're like, okay, cool, perfect. And my manager told me when she got that file, she's like, but what work did you do? And I'm like, what do you mean? I printed all of these pages, I stapled them, I highlighted for you, I even referenced. And she's like, cool, but to what are you referencing? And I'm like, oh no, I just put it like, so this is document A and B and C and D. after that, I learned, okay, that's not what we do in audit. So there's obviously a lot of procedures. But because I wasn't out of matric, I didn't have 3 years of study behind me. But once I started figuring out, okay, this journey is going to be a lot harder than I anticipated because I know nothing. I need to use the tools I'm getting from my studies in my daily work. So what I would do is, if I got an audit or a review or compiling financial statements about a specific topic, I would go home and study that from my UNISA notes or my studies that I need to do. And the next day, I would bring that into my practical audit file. So when I talk to the managers, I speak in the jargon. If I do my documentation, I bring in the words from IFRS, the words from ISA, because that helped me to actually learn it a lot better and understand what problems are is the topic solving. Because something I actually realized, sadly, 2 weeks ago, which is sad given that I already have an honors, but IFRS, each IFRS standard was created because it solves a problem. An accounting problem. And it's so obvious, but I never thought about it. Like, why did IFRS 16 actually come out? It came out because when you lease out a piece of equipment, you no longer have the right to control that piece of equipment, because that's a definition of a lease. But for IFRS 16 PPE, to recognize PPE, guess what? You need to have control. So IFRS 16 came in to solve that problem, to tell you when this happens, it's okay, this is what you do now. And since clicking that, like, I'm like, I understand everything that I learned now for the past 4 years so much better. And I had a good understanding. So I was like, wow, it was life-changing for me. And I think that's also what helped me in my studies was, and I always say to students, understand the why behind the topic to understand the how of the topic. Because once you do that, it's fairly simple. Because if you go into an exam, even in your third year now, if you go in and you write your IFRS 16 exam, if you know why that standard is what it is and how it works, it doesn't matter if you forget a paragraph or you forget something, because you're going to know inherently what to do still.
Because it just makes sense that we recognize that this limitation is there.
Exactly.
Blah, blah, blah.
It will make sense, and then you will do inherently better.
And even when you mentioned IFRS 16, the leases one, I even think about, so IFRS 16 is not the latest leases standard. Even before IFRS 16, though, I think it was IAS 16? I forgot which IAS.
I don't know which one, but there was one.
Before, they used to treat all the leases like an operating lease. So they used to treat it like, a normal rental. We're just having rental. And they would treat that the same. But now they've introduced this new one. I don't like that they do it like this. But it just helps to understand why. So that you can do it on the test. But they introduced this new one to take into account the fact that sometimes people actually own the asset after, or sometimes they have the asset for a long time. So now we can't be treating this thing like a rental.
Lease, exactly.
You own this thing.
Yeah.
You own this thing. So it's like when you understand the why, as you said,
exactly,
how it becomes easy.
And also remember, at the end of the day, when you're studying IFRS, you need to think about the bigger picture. The bigger picture is there's going to be a set of financial statements. What's the bigger picture beyond that? Someone's going to take the financial statements, read it, and make decisions off of that. What's the bigger picture of that? And once you understand all of those, you'll get why IFRS 16 came and said we can't do it as operating leases. Because an investor in that time would have looked at our AFs and saw a PPE balance of 200 million and be like, okay, great. I want to sell this company now. I want to strip it for its asset, and I can get roughly 200 million rand for my assets, if it's sold at carrying value. Did that, and then when they were selling the PPE, realized, oh, but wait, we've actually leased 150 million of this. We don't own that. IFRS 16 came and said, let's fix that. Let's address that. And that's what's the point of all the IFRSs. Like IFRS 18 that just came out. Financial statements currently as they stand, it's pointless. By the time an audit's finalized, what you're going to use it for? The banks use it to check your cash flow, to check your assets, and to say there's a verifiable balance. But for decision-making purposes, and you're going to learn that in CTA, it doesn't mean much. Because by the time it's authorized and approved, things have changed. I mean, some companies grow at such a rate that information as per their February year-end is no longer relevant in May or June.
Or decline at such a rate.
Exactly. And you know what's scary? In practice, some financial statements are only approved in August. Going on.
Goodness gracious.
Some of them are like 3 months, but that's the point. So IFRS 18 came out to make things more relevant. Because currently, accounting-wise, accounting tells you, realistically speaking, what the financial position is. But making strategic decisions off of that information is not that easy. Because there's estimates involved, bias involved, subjectivity involved. And as you notice, I just gave you the inherent risk factors of audit. So if you understand that, you'll understand audit. But that's the point.
Can you walk us through IFRS 18? It sounds like you know a little bit about it. I'm interested.
I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that it aims to fix a lot of cash flow problems, the way cash flow is currently presented.
Oh, dang.
And it's going to change a bit how our financial statements are set out. So IFRS 1 currently prescribes the treatment, and it basically sets out your definitions of, well, not definitions, sets out how to classify your assets, liabilities, expenses, and income. And it's the standard we generally use if there's no standard available for a specific item, presentation-wise. Where IFRS 18 now comes in and says, okay, investors want to see this piece of information. Let's add
like
this.
a ratio, for an example.
Like a ratio, for example. I don't know what the specific requirements are going to be, but I think there's a lot of changes coming, because in practice, a lot of the times what we see is this: people tend to set out accounting policies, and it would be the whole IFRS standard. If they have PPE, IAS 16 is in your financial statements. It's like 4 pages long. And the new IFRS body came out and only not new body, but the new members came and said, but that's not necessarily. Financial statements are set up for people with IFRS knowledge. They know how PPE should be treated. They know how financial instruments are treated. That's why we set up this financial statement using these standards. So the only thing you need to disclose accounting policy-wise is if you made an election in the standard. You rebutted the fair value assumption, or you rebutted a specific provision. Here's why. Or you didn't use IFRS, or you departed from IFRS. You don't have to copy and paste the entire IFRS. And I believe that's what IFRS 18 aims to fix. So it's about your financial statements as a whole. So remember, if I talk about that, it would be your front page of financial statements up into your statement of changes in equity or cash flow statement. Everything note-wise, that is generally prescribed by individual IFRSs.
Okay, yeah.
But everything before it would fall within IFRS 18.
Oh, sure.
So,
Interesting. Yeah, people, you're going to have to know that, guys.
Yeah.
I'm sure even
especially you guys.
I'm sure the first years, like, even now, like, literally, they're probably studying it. But, like, for us, maybe in CTA. Maybe.
It would depend. So how SAICA generally works, your CTA knowledge is capped to everything that's effective by the January ITC that you write. If that makes sense.
Okay, I hear you.
So IFRS 18, I think, only becomes effective from 1 Jan 20, or not Jan, but in 2027.
Okay.
So it should not be in CTA until 2026.
Okay.
It might be in the 2025 one, but they need to tell you. They'll tell you at the beginning that they're going to teach you IFRS 18.
Crazy.
But once you get to the audit firms, they'll teach it to you, because when we're auditing, we need to audit what's applicable at the date of the audit. Yep.
You studied online.
Yep.
What was the difference? Because I know now you work with people who didn't study online. Because my brother failed CTA. He was online.
I think from what I've chatted to people about, the biggest difference is...
To be continued in part 3. See you next week.